This program is brought to you by the Media Liberty Alliance Foundation in cooperation with OBBM Network TV, bringing citizen-led, creative local media to the forefront of local communities to foster a greater understanding of constitutional liberty and appreciation of what makes us truly free, starting with you and me.
Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you're updated each time fresh content comes out. And thank you for being part of the Zach Ratliff Show.
The Zach Ratliff Show is sponsored by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Exceed Health Clinic, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org. Hello and welcome to the Zach Ratliff Show. I'm Zach. This is Perla Hopkins. Hey, Perla, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for hosting me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And then we've got Steve Oglesby in the Ed McMahon chair where you can't see him. Hello, Steve.
He's here.
I'm going to laugh at everything you say, like
Ed Wood?
like Ed Wood.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, Perla, you're running for Lieutenant Governor of Texas. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to stop in the studio and be with us. Why don't you kind of give us a little bio of you and just let everybody get to know who you are?
Well, I kneel for the cross and I stand for the flag. I am a proud military veteran, a military spouse of 25 years. My husband and I have raised 3 amazing adult children. They're in their 20s.
Awesome.
They all attend or graduated from the University of Texas at Austin.
Okay.
So God placed us near the Austin swamp, so to speak, for the last 8 years. And I have a background in education. So I'm a teacher, an educator, and just had been minding my business in the education system. My husband retired out of the military in 2017. We came back home to Texas and thought we would just finish raising our children in the best state in the union. And little did we know, while we were stationed overseas for 8 years off and on, what was really brewing back home in America, and much less what was happening to Texas.
Well, and so let's stop there. There's something that I say all the time, which is, for me personally, I have a few must-haves, a few principles that I live by. Number one, I serve the Lord Jesus Christ. He is the first. After that, I want to be a good dad. After that, I want to be a good son. And then politics. But my politics very much, it's got to hit those 3 things. And it sounds like with you that seems to mirror where you are. And if that's what your politics are going to be, that already sounds like a winning combination.
Well, I believe so, because we must fight for our faith, our family, our country. And when that is on the brink of being taken from us, or God-given rights, it takes, just regular mom and dads like ourselves to lift up, so to speak, put on a different hat. And if it has to be a political one, such as in my case, that's what I indeed had to do. I'm just not a bystander. And so when I see things happening against Christians and especially against children, I will stand up every day, fight for them.
Culture has a way right now of even telling us that, there's nothing against Christians and that, but that's not true. Our country very much is, I was with someone, I don't know, within the last 4 or 5 months, it all kind of runs together. And, I noticed them get uncomfortable when I bowed my head to pray in a restaurant. Now, it's not like I made a big scene about it or whatever. And I said, hey, I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. They're like, oh, no, I'm just not used to that. But so much so that you have to be reserved in Texas to bow your head to pray in a restaurant? Like, we've come to the fringes of, no, this is not who we are. Right? Am I off base on this?
No, that's exactly what we're facing. Rather than every child believe in the promise of God and that they all have the potential to work hard and achieve the American dream, that is what is being taken from them. starting in the education system.
Right.
And we have arrived to this lawlessness, this uncomfort when it comes to us expressing our faith, our religion, because they have tried to eradicate, to eliminate God in the public schools.
Right.
And that started as soon as I worked at the Leander Independent School District, which is 25 miles north of Austin.
Okay. That's a big district too, right?
It is. It's 200 square miles.
Okay.
So it's about 8 municipalities, multiple towns. And in Leander, there's really just homes and schools. It's really that small, but it has boomed in population
with
because
the explosion in Austin.
with the tech. You're right, and we'll get into the H-1B visas later on. But yes, we first went through the moment of silence rather than prayer. And now we have had several bills the past 3 sessions that have put in things such as our national motto. There was Senate Bill 797 that was signed by the governor in 2021 during the 87th legislature. And a lot of schools have fought us when we have brought the donations of "In God We Trust" frames,
Right.
which they are supposed to display in a prominent location at each school.
Right.
So we've just had to put on our boots and strap them on and not give up, to let our kids know, yes, we should be God-fearing people. And again, in Texas, we will protect kids, and we want them to succeed and become the best, innovators, whether it's in the plumbing industry or joining our military services, going to college. Our kids deserve the very best, and I know that's what I'm fighting for.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, even we talk about the moment of silence thing, and I kind of just been sitting here pondering it while listening to you, and you're absolutely right. You used to, hey, we're gonna pray before this football game, or we're gonna pray for. Now it's we're gonna take a moment of silence. But then we have the other side of Texas, and I think you'll get into this. I know you did some last night, but also if you want to build a Muslim commune and do that, and you want to play your call to prayer 5 times a day, we have to allow that because we don't want to be offensive. But if you, Christian, want to pray before your football game, your ballet recital, whatever it is, no, you can't do that because you're going to be offensive. There's not 2 sets of laws. Right?
Yes. When my children attended schools in Galveston ISD, so that's probably 20 years ago or so, I didn't notice anything, awry or against children or against our religion. And fast forward, when they were a little older, at the end of their elementary school years, we were stationed in Louisiana. That's where I grew up some and graduated high school. Okay. So just always, the state grounded in faith, of all religions, Christians. And my kids, enjoyed going to T-ball and prayer before every game. And their coaches, giving them the ball of the game and, a verse written on the little baseballs.
It wasn't weird to have.
No. Just loving life and loving being able to express and enjoy your First Amendment. But nowadays it's quite a struggle. And in the last 2 years, we have had 48 new mosques being built. In my surrounding areas of Cedar Park and Leander, there's a lot of compounds already either in place, already built and functioning, or a new 19-acre development is in the works. So we have a lot of independent journalists out there, lots of folks exposing what has been taking place under both our governors, who are now asking for a 4th term.
Right. Well, where you sit now, you're about 1.5 miles from a mosque. And then, and it's in an old house, but it's there. And then another 2 miles around the same road, so you're about 3.5 miles from here, maybe. I think it's 16 acres that has been purchased, and it's it's for a mosque and whatever goes around that. So we're experiencing that right here in Northeast Texas as well. That this is a reality that we're dealing with. That a lot of people are honestly afraid to even talk about, and especially Dan Patrick. I mean, I don't feel like he's on our side on this deal, and we don't have to necessarily talk negative about him, but we can speak in facts. I mean, and Greg Abbott as well. And there has been no pushback against this. Now, I'm all for freedom of religion, but I'm not for you having your own government that's based on your religion that supersedes our laws.
Right. Well, Sharia law is not conducive to Western, civilization, to society. It is not constitutional law. So here in America, here in Texas, we abide and uphold the Texas Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. Texas happens to be home to more than 1.4 million veterans.
Yeah.
So just about, 1 in 10 families, 1 in 10 people are touched by military service. Mm-hmm. So, gosh, I don't know what they were thinking, including our lawmakers, but yeah, don't mess with Texas. And now it's coming to a head. Because, again, this has been in the works for the last 10, 12 years. And before that, we're really trying to look at the timeline. And back in the 90s, we had the first generation of charter schools, proposed through the State Board of Education, the Texas Education Agency, our capital. And that indeed has opened the doors to a lot of these Islamic schools.
Like I really? Said. That's kind of the foothold?
Yes. And what I'm trying to also observe is that perhaps these newer Islamic schools, or the ones that are being proposed at least, they don't seem to be going through the State Board of Education in that process. I'm wondering if they're being developed or built using previous charter names. And the one I can think of is like Renaissance Academy.
Okay.
So if you start seeing a lot of like Harmony charters or Renaissance.
They're using an older charter.
Do you understand? Like, those have to be approved and vetted. Right. So
are they vetted on a regular basis? So,
they have to go through a process.
Can they lose their certification?
Probably, but a lot of it has to do with like academics. But what we're talking about here is, are there any ties to transnational terrorist organizations?
Right.
I know that our government, or the Texas governor, did designate CARE, the Council on American and Islamic Relations, tied to terrorist organizations, along with the Muslim Brotherhood. Right. So these are things that have to be investigated, number one. And then we need governors and lawmakers that hold these organizations. Mosques, if they are tied in with the terrorist groups, then those facilities need to be shut. If there are offices,
and I imagine you're getting some huge pushback on this.
Well, not myself per se, because I'm not afraid to, speak up and act on my convictions. I consider myself an individual that if I see something, I say something.
Which is awesome. Which is what we need in the lieutenant governor's seat.
Pretty much. It's such an important role. So I'm not afraid. I volunteer with many, many organizations across the state. So grassroots leaders, they know my work ethic. They know that if they need someone, like I said, I'm so local physically to the state capitol. So if someone is working on a project and we have a call to action, I'm there for them. So there was several organizations like the RARE Foundation, Accountability Matters, and my friend through Shepherd's Watch. They deal, with human trafficking and just protecting women and children. There was a Denounce CARE pledge, and so I got involved because we were not getting the pledges in return, with the state representative signatures and the senator signatures. So I went back and resubmitted them.
It seems like it'd be an easy thing to sign on to.
Well, and again, this was like mid 2025.
Okay.
Now we're in 26, and as we know, a lot is being exposed, right?
Right.
So never in my mind did I think, as I was helping out with something so important, that it would be exposed to a much higher level than I had knowledge of in 25, and that B, I would also be signing that same pledge as a candidate in January of 2026. So I myself am not feeling the pushback.
Okay.
Because I'm still, a little person.
Well, you're hanging out with people like us a lot too. I mean, you're not
Exactly.
getting invited to the banquets that Dan Patrick is.
No, and
you're
that's
getting
his
invited
way.
to come see the grassroots.
Yes, and that's his way of campaigning, and he's probably not worried about, myself at all, but I know they are paying attention.
Well,
and
this is a grassroots primary, and as I said this yesterday, and I said this to Doc Pete Chambers on Wednesday when we had lunch with him. It's the John Cornyn election is going to drive grassroots because it's driving Ken Paxton, it's driving Wesley Hunt, and I'm not going to ask you to take a side on either of that, but those voters are grassroots voters. So in my mind, and I'm no political expert, that only plays to grassroots candidates like Doc, like you, in that way. So these establishment candidates have to go out and they have to have their banquets and they have to have their money and they have to spend millions of dollars on this. Even if they don't acknowledge you, they know you're there because they also know that the grassroots is driving against Cornyn. And with Cornyn being on the ballot this time, and the grassroots opposition, it only helps you, is the way I see it. I don't know that I'm right, but I feel like that.
It makes a lot of sense. And there is so much pushback right now from the grassroots.
yes,
Like you said, some of these bills have been in effect. Some of these laws have been in effect for several years, but nothing is being done about it. We saw this Wednesday at that event in Van Zandt County, that there's laws that could stop the implementation of all these battery energy storage systems that are built with Chinese software and hardware. It's literally against the law to use that stuff, to do it, but no one's enforcing it. And our state, our establishment candidates, our establishment leaders in both the legislature and then like lieutenant governor, they say things we want to hear, but they never follow through with it. And so the laws are already in place to deal with this, but no one does anything. And I remember having a discussion with somebody back in 2017 when Trump started, all these companies started coming back into the country. And I said, this Trump did this. The guy goes, no, it's just a changing atmosphere and taxes and things. And I said, well, if that's the case, if Trump can make some changes and companies come back in, then someone deliberately made the companies leave.
Yeah,
If our elected officials who we entrust to do this on our behalf, if they talk a good talk, but things get worse and worse, you have to think at some point it's deliberate.
Yeah.
At some point it's not a coincidence.
Yeah. Let's pair that into the H-1B. So, because a lot of these companies have come in, and companies coming back isn't necessarily the same as H-1B visa candidates coming in. And so, and you talked about this last night, and I'd like to hear what you have to say on it. And my thought is, so I do real estate and have sold to some clients that were here. Well, actually, they weren't my clients. I represented someone else. But anyway, they were here on visa, and the deal was they have to come and you laid this out, and I'm just going to set the table, and then you can go with it. They have to come here, and they have to make so much in an investment on whatever visa, and it might not have been H-1B, but it's some kind of visa, and then within 2 years has to hire up to 25 people. But so what they do is they get established here, and then especially in Indian culture, if someone asks to stay at your house, you let them stay there. So if they own a hotel, then someone that they know comes here trying to get established, hey, I need to stay here, they have to let them. Well, then once they get established, then that person's family member. So they're coming here and they're creating 50 new jobs or 20 new jobs, but it's all people that are also here getting visas. And so we're seeing that spread. And so they're bringing in their own families. And so all the jobs are going to non-Texans.
Right.
Am I?
Oh, yes.
And that's just from my personal observation of how I've seen that play out over. It took a year to get this transaction done, so I had a lot of time to watch the way the web was spinning. Am I close on this?
Well, yes, and I want to go back to what we shared y'all shared just a second ago. Not only do our governors tell us what we want to hear, but we're distracted.
Yeah.
So as we consider that if Texas was a country, we'd be the 8th highest economy in the world. That's amazing, right?
Right.
But when we have to deal with the border crisis, that immigration issue that it's impacting all sectors of our society and here in Texas, and then compounded with the H-1B visas, the sponsor companies, provide and pay for the visas, number one.
Right.
But that is misleading because you would think, well, that's just for the worker, because we must have a shortage of hardworking Texans
Right.
and non-educated Texans to be hiring outside. And so then you hear the claim that, well, it's because it's cheaper labor. So
Right.
we need them to come in, or they're experts, right? It's so many convoluted excuses.
Right.
When the reality is that, yes, our jobs are being given away. And deliberately. And so when one applicant to the H-1B visa is approved, and granted, it's probably a long process, right? They end up bringing their whole family.
Absolutely.
And by that, I mean they also bring their mothers.
Moms, dads,
grandmas.
everybody.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And we are now really having to consider what's going on in the schools with a lot of non-English speakers being hired as teachers. So there's been a push towards getting our seasoned teachers out, because a lot of our educators, especially if they've been teaching 20 plus years, they're not okay with being given an ideology and an agenda through the curriculum that hurts little kids. And so we have a lot of our teachers that never have they had real good, honest pay, number
Right.
one, and then now are being forced to possibly be part of the indoctrination system. And so we have our teachers that just go ahead and retire. And I really want to help out that sector because I speak as a teacher myself, and I'm part of the teacher retirement system. And so we just have a lot of work to do. But going back to the problem, when we have now a decline in Texas education, we're ranked number 40 among the 50 states. While we pay, I think we're 6th in the nation as far as how high our property taxes have gotten.
Ridiculous.
We have been distracted, and I feel that those bills and laws and just steps forward for Texas are non-enforceable, like you were saying.
I'm not sure about non-enforceable, but not enforced.
Not enforced,
Yeah.
yes. It's just a way to say, well, we're going to work on this bill so that we can halt H-1B
It's
visas.
just patting you on the back and telling you it's going to be okay, and then not doing
until
anything
the
about it.
next legislative session.
That's exactly right.
And then when they fool us at that step, it's, now it's 4 years later, it's the next election cycle.
It's the carrot.
So we're going to keep kicking the can down the road.
They did that with school
fooling
choice because a lot of homeschool traditional parents had been clamoring for school choice for a long time. And then started the last legislative session, they go, hey, we're going to do school choice this time. And everybody's like, yay. You haven't looked at it. You don't have no idea what it says. And so you've got educators rightly concerned about it, but then you've got a lot of people that are homeschoolers that pay attention, and they're concerned about it. And anytime the government says, hey, we're going to do that thing you want, be concerned.
Well,
and so anytime they say, oh, we just passed a law that's going to make all these things you're talking about go away, be concerned. Because when they brag about doing that, especially if it comes to the establishment, they're probably trying to blow smoke up your skirt. Is that the correct term?
That is.
They're trying to do that to you. They're trying to obfuscate what they're really doing.
Right.
And that's a cynical way to look at things.
Well,
But
let me
at this
add
point,
this.
that's just realism.
Well, with school choice, we really have to have that audited, that bill. Let's see how many out-of-state
Right.
Investors are profiting off of this.
And that was just an example
really
of them
expose
saying.
the contracts.
I shared a meme the other day. It said, "Yay, we passed the Free Sodas for All Act." And okay, cool. When do I get a Coke? Right. Oh, you don't.
Right.
Also, puppies are outlawed.
Yeah.
And it's all smoke and mirrors. But
let me add this to what Perla said. When you talk about the teachers retiring, I know teachers that can see what's coming, can see the change, exactly, but still have younger kids and are leaving. They're like, you know what? And I know this for a fact that they're like, okay, for the next 6 months, we're going to live off of my husband's budget, make sure that we're comfortable with that. Then I'll just leave the workforce, leave teaching, and homeschool my kids. And now I'm talking about the person in my mind has been hardcore. I'm for education. I'm for, where I work. I love my job hey, this is going and is in a decent school district. Don't get me wrong, but is so much so that can see what's coming. Like, I don't want my kids to be a part of this in such a way that we're going to take the loss on the income, and I'll just do it from home. We'll cut costs where we need to because I don't want my kid indoctrinated into such a way.
There are a lot of highly educated, highly experienced teachers dropping out and doing that constantly. As I go around the state, I see that, I hear about that, I meet people like that, and it's people who they just thought everything was great, and it's something clicked, something snapped, and like you just said, they go, we can't do this.
And that's what Perla just said. I mean, that's what you're saying. Well, let me
continued sacrifices because our children are what it's all about. Those are God's greatest gifts to us.
Yeah.
So if we don't do right by the littlest of Texans, then
let me throw this at you. Here locally, it's been. Oh, I said that and the song came into my mind, so it kind of derailed me. But it's been probably a couple of years ago. There was a survey given to and one of the local school districts to two kids, and you were supposed to sign a waiver if you wanted. And I think it was fifth grade students, maybe. I can't remember exactly. It was either third or fifth grade. I want to say fifth grade, but it was about sexual stuff, and and then here's the deal. They still gave it to them even without the signatures. So when your school districts, and it's a slow bleed of indoctrination. It doesn't just all happen at once. Or even like the last school district my daughter was at, she came to me, she goes, "Dad, why? I've got a substitute who wears this thing that covers her face all the time. Why is that allowed?" So we have probably thousands of listeners. And across, I think, 35 states, and I think we're in, I don't know, above 10 countries now that are listening. So when they think of Texas, like we're supposed to be free,
right?
But we've got this happening here. I can only imagine how it happens anywhere else. So that's why we need someone like you. And I'll kind of let you get into what your thought on students. And I really want you to go into what you were saying about what is the TASB, Texas Association of School Boards, and how that matters. Because when you said that last time, I was like, oh. That's exactly right. So could you kind of go into that for me?
Yes. So as teachers in Texas, we must abide by the Texas Educator Code of Ethics, which that now has become, a joke because right. Nothing's being done. I know you talked about attire, right? What are we doing allowing educators to dress in bike shorts and short dresses, and they're men, right?
Even worse.
So we haven't even talked about.
Is that happening here in Texas?
Oh yes, all around.
Just want to pervert these kids in every way we can.
And again, we have a Texas Education Commissioner who is the head of the Texas Education Agency, and that individual is a paid it's a paid position, and it is appointed by the Texas governor.
Right.
So that same individual was also supported by the lieutenant governor, has been in that position for about 10 years, and has already relayed to us that just about 18% only of Texas lesson plans, what's actually being taught in Texas classrooms to our kids, is on grade level. So all the other material, the students don't understand it. They can't read and write proficiently. And they are just, either teaching to a test or teaching to the lowest level. So if you have, in my kid's case, a gifted 10th grade English class, they're not being given novels that you and I were, Romeo and Juliet. That's one example.
They don't read that anymore?
In some school districts, they do not. They have now brought in instructional materials, books or novels, such as graphic novels, where it's just a bunch of cartoons and some...
It's a thick comic book.
Yes, but some of them don't even have plenty of words or enough words, and it is just grotesque pictures. And so we have that issue going on when we have a head of an agency that is supposed to provide
Some of these graphic
curriculum.
I want to say that some of these graphic
the local
novels are
school
almost porn. Like,
yes, they are.
I mean, let's just be out and out about what some of them are. Not all of them.
Some of them actually are porn. I mean, when Kristen Bentley came here 4 or 5 years ago to talk about that thing when it was first getting kicked off, I mean, she had graphic novels there. You could open it up, and I mean, she had it bookmarked. But
I don't think you can show this on screen, but read some of that.
Let's see.
Look at this one.
Oh my gosh.
That's a book right there. My kids' schools.
I don't want to read this because one of
No.
my sponsors is my church.
Yeah, no, you can't. You can't read it.
Oh my gosh.
So here's a picture.
can you bleep the word somehow?
Yeah, I can do that. Let me see.
What you're looking at
Oh, are you
is
really going to bleep them?
what you're looking
meant
at
just like
is
censor
a
yourself.
novel at third grade level, written at third grade level, as you can see because of the verbiage, the words, and that is in classes for seniors, for gifted English classes.
If I bleep the words, did so many bleeps that
I'll tell you part of it. A Mexican is a Mexican is a Mexican.
yeah, I see that a Mexican is a Mexican is a Mexican, and then but that isn't where that isn't good. This is basically about for the boys. Then it has the P word for vagina, or the idea of the P word, or the idea of a P word. A Mexican is a Mexican is a Mexican. That I mean.
And you're gonna
that's not
and
the
at the
worst
end,
of what it says on
and
here.
at the end you're gonna grab the
Yep.
girl by her braid and put it in her cornhole.
Yeah. Like, golly, I didn't realize
And that's what grade?
This is literature, high
that's
school.
literature.
If you look at this one, you were talking about opt-outs earlier,
Yes.
and they still gave the material to your daughter. So I personally, when my kids, we survived public school, thank you Jesus, I had opted out my children from receiving sexual violent material, anti-Christian material. What you're looking at
This
right
is
now
sick.
is blasphemous.
Look at
I saw it. Yeah.
that. It's sexualizing the statue of Jesus in a
Jesus on the crucifix.
yeah. Oh
And it's also further retribution and
And these are
shaming.
in our schools.
Yes. So in 2021, I became the first Texas mom to be kicked out of her own children's school board meeting. I was helping this mom right here that you see, and you can tell a little bit. It went viral because her son received a book called Lawn Boy, which is also not just pedophilia, but racist. Lawn Boy, the main character, written by Jonathan Evison, was named Mike Munoz, and the title is Mike Munoz is a lawn boy because
And that's your
apparently
maiden name.
that's my maiden name. Yes, good catch. So when I'm looking through this book, and it deals with two 10-year-old little boys when Mike Munoz was 10 at a church camp with another 10-year-old little boy having relations.
I mean, it's just a sick world. But because we're
But let's not have "In God We Trust"
Yeah,
hanging on the wall.
exactly. But because we've been, and here's my problem, and I had a whole show on this. What's the one that they were talking about when we were at lunch? Politicians aren't the problem. the church and Christians not being afraid to be ridiculed is the issue here.
Or afraid to be even criticized.
We've become so silent that it takes a leader like Perla Hopkins running for lieutenant governor to stand up and say, we have to speak against this. We cannot let our kids go this way. We have to do... Look, all the disciples, they didn't all go retire and live a peaceful life. They were all killed. We have to know that we're going to be oppressed, but we have to speak about it, right?
And granted, it has taken me years at first, whether it's because of my military background or even my culture. We're a non-aggressive people,
Right.
and it's definitely not political. Being in the military, everyone is your brother and sisters in arms.
Right.
Political background, you never hang out with your friends, your military family, because of what their actual political beliefs are or their ethnicity or anything of the sort, right? Everyone is, like the Bible says, you love thy neighbor.
Right.
And that's always how I had lived my life. So I do want to let y'all know it did take me years to really come into acceptance of this.
It's taken a lot of people. I mean, I think,
Yes.
I don't know if you grew up just being awesome, but I had to work into this. Because we're taught to be polite.
Yes.
We're don't be racist, don't be this, don't be that, and one of the things that just keeps coming up is why I think we really need to clean house at the state level. The HB 900 to get porn out of schools.
Yes, I worked
and
on
libraries are fighting tooth and nail to keep stuff in there. School librarians, high school, junior high, even lower, are fighting tooth and nail. Why is it so important to them? I want them to answer that. Why is it so important to you that we have porn available to students? And our elected officials are great at saying, oh man, yes, I believe in that 100%, and I passed a law or I signed an executive order, but they don't actually do anything. If the governor and lieutenant governor spoke up and were unified pushing back against these kind of things and so many things, the border, so many other things we deal with, if they actually stood up for what we believe in, we wouldn't be having these problems. They'd be another 20, 30 years before somebody could do something about it.
Yes.
And so and Pete Chambers,
Yes.
And others, that we don't need anybody. I mean, vote against all incumbents. That's something that came out in the 60s and 70s.
We do need people of action.
Yeah.
We do, and
absolutely right.
That's a good way to say it.
And you seem to be a person of action. Like you said, and even if it took you a while to get warmed up into it, here
Right.
we are.
Because at first I didn't want to read those types of
that made my
but I'm on the
stomach
record
hurt.
now. I've had to read some of that because
Okay, so we had when Kristen came here the first time, people, if you say there's porn in schools, look, I'll show it to you, and look like, oh my gosh, oh no, they would just be appalled and walk away from it and go, we need help with this. No, I'm not touching that. Your disgust is appropriate, but your response is
Not hers. Not
no, not Perla, but people that would look at it, and go, oh no, I'm not getting anywhere near that, and they would just walk away from the problem. And it was the things that we saw 4, 5, 6 years ago in books. I'm sure it's worse now. People would go, no, I'm not getting involved in that at all, and so they would walk away from doing anything.
Right.
well, the months
I don't want to think about how bad this is, and if I don't think about it, then it's okay.
Right.
And we need
Go ahead.
people like you that get kicked out of a school board meeting, mama bears.
And at first, like I said, it was nothing I've ever experienced before, so I made sure to. In the military, they teach you, they really drill into you, document, CYA, don't be a bystander,
Right.
fraud, waste, and abuse. You know, those are things that, sexual harassment,
Right.
you get training for that. So the government has also spent another small fortune on me to help me be an advocate for military families. So
Okay.
God has always opened so many doors to me. I've gone and been a speaker at the Pentagon and Capitol Hill on behalf of military families to talk about our housing crisis and dilemmas that we have to live with, to just good common sense issues, including our children's education. So I'm no stranger. My entire life has been spent in public service.
Right.
And the majority of it has either been spent as a teacher or as a non-paid volunteer.
Well, that's also, so going into lieutenant governor, how do you attack this?
Well, the role of the lieutenant governor is so important because every bill goes through the desk of the lieutenant governor of Texas.
Explain that real quick. The lieutenant governor is in charge of
the lieutenant governor presides over the Texas Senate. So when our bills are put through the Texas House and taken all those legislative steps, the lieutenant governor, the office of the lieutenant governor, is responsible in assigning bills to committees, in assigning the committees to, or the senators to the committees.
Right.
And every bill has to be read with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that we are passing bills or declining bills that are not for the betterment of Texas. And those bills, or if I were the lieutenant governor, I would really make a commitment to look at the Republican Party of Texas legislative priorities, our entire platform, and our resolutions to include the TASB that you were talking about, in actually enacting bills and laws that are going to take us out of this mess, that are going to, once and for all, tackle our immigration crisis and everything that falls under that, to make sure that we never allow nations like the CCP to, buy our lands.
Well,
China, Communist China.
Yes, and the equipment, just like the battery
Battery energy
farms
storage systems.
and the solar farms, we're starting to really look at, track it all down, and it's a lot of the equipment, including the AI data centers,
So
are
Dan
owned
Patrick-
by China.
Wait, hold on. I've got something. I've got a thought. And
Well, you're writing your thoughts down. I'm just storing mine in my noggin.
it's my show.
I forget sometimes.
So the governor of Texas, as stuff comes across his desk, or the lieutenant governor, I'm sorry, or her desk, it reminds me of what we're doing in our church Bible reading over the last few days. As Joseph is in Egypt, right, and he's in control of, or we've got the famine coming, we've got all, but the Pharaoh gives him the ring, and it's his signet, and what he hits with that ring is what. So that's the lieutenant governor's job in the Senate, is what you're hitting with that signet. That's what goes. It's basically live or die with, and even if it's where you put it on the calendar or what committee it is. There's a lot of gamesmanship inside the lieutenant governor's office that if you're there, you can't make it pass, but you can help it to never get there, or you can decide what gets priority, and so because
what's happening behind closed doors,
right?
So one of our priorities is to finally do something about banning taxpayer-funded lobbying.
Oh, what? That'd
because
be great.
Are our bills passed or not? Are they given priority based on who's whining and dining you?
Which is, that's exactly right.
And what did we see with Hollywood this past session? So in 2025, rather than work on, I just had it, the water conservation bills and projects that require, serious funding. Why are choices being made to underfund water conservation bills, yet we are subsidizing, we're asking, hey, Hollywood, what can Texas do for you? Right. Let's give you $1.5 billion to get it started.
They don't even represent our values.
Right.
Well, not only that, they actually work against folks like, our great president, right? Number two, when you open the doors wide open to Hollywood, to the film industry, what you're doing is opening the doors to further child exploitation.
I hadn't even gone down
and
that
now
thought
Texas
path.
is really going to have to consider, now that Lieutenant Dan Patrick has opened the doors, we are going to have departments that must issue and protect children that will require a work permit to work in the film industry.
Right.
And we're going to have to just have the most integrity, thoughtful, loving, caring individuals, lawmakers that need to really consider how we're going to protect children in that business.
I hadn't even thought of that.
I want them.
Neither.
Oh, I'm a big thinker because
I like it. We need, apparently we need it.
we need a forward-thinking lieutenant governor who, again, all of this has already happened under his watch.
Right.
And Texas
Why-
has a film industry.
Right,
And
right.
it's fairly
and I'm not against the
conservative.
film industry.
A lot of it is very conservative.
I have a really good friend that I work on with his groups and coalition on eliminating property taxes.
Oh, that's where I wanted to go next. I like
Over in
that too.
Johnson County, they are a role model county, and we, had our bills just killed
Yeah.
by Republicans, few Democrats, and let's not forget that Texas is a Republican-controlled.
Well, in
state.
name only.
In name only.
And I'll say this, and this is my problem with especially mainstream Republican candidates, is they're only with us when we don't need them. They're only with us when it's going to pass anyway. But most of them are too cowardly to ever take a stand. Most of them don't have the backbone to stand up and say, this is what's right. I don't care what the media says. I don't care what culture says, because culture isn't always right. You have, like you've said it a few times, you have to have integrity about what you believe. And to do that, you have to have principles, which you stated at the beginning of this interview. Christian, family. Okay, well, I know it doesn't matter the bill that comes before you. If I know that's your principle, and it's not, you're not just saying that to do it. If I know that you truly, I know how you're going to act on these issues.
Yeah, and first of all, we need bills that are concise, or that are one-issue bills, that are standalone bills. So if we're talking about water conservation or AI data centers, they need to be their own bills rather than us getting time and time again fooled, and we have a stack of one bill where everything else is,
And then you
just kind of swept
name it
under
the
there.
Save Your Puppies from a hard death bill, so everybody wants to pass it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And
Some
so
of these
that,
things get deliberately, the core principle of the bill gets flipped
right.
in committee, and so when it gets passed, we see this regularly, that the lawmaker who introduced the bill votes against it because that's not what I said.
Yes.
And they get undermined, they get it flipped. A question that I have is, if you're going to be attorney general, you probably need some experience being an attorney. If you're going to be a judge, you need some experience with trial cases, I would think. Our appellate court, a lot of people running for that are people who have worked in the appeals process, and it's different than the trial process, so they need experience in that. And I would say that the opposite is true with our lawmakers, especially at the top of the heap. Lieutenant governor, the governor. If you've been in politics for a while, you don't know it, but you're messed up. And we get these people that go in there with good intention, and there's very few of them that won't at some point compromise themselves a little bit or go, well, I guess that makes sense or whatever.
Right.
Don Huffines is a good example of someone who didn't bow to that. That's why he's got a little bit of experience in politics. I think he'd be a great comptroller.
Right.
But if you go in there and you've never had any experience at all as a legislator, and you just
I think that goes in your favor.
I do too, because if you get in there and you have zero experience with any of these bills,
but you've seen the process because you've been behind some of these bills.
Right.
So it's not
Using my own resources, just like the rest of the
and
grassroots.
this is not I'm not slamming
and I'm
you.
no longer begging. That's why I'm challenging,
Right.
because
That is, and you go in there and you go, well, that's stupid. We're not doing it that way. And
because you've
there's
seen the other side.
Right.
Yeah, you see the results of it.
And I worked really hard. I have 3 master's degrees in education, my bachelor's in
I can't even spell
psychology.
masters.
My associate's degree through the military is in weather technology. So I have a great big scope.
Well, we could do a whole show on weather technology.
So I feel that I am qualified, and most of all, it's because of my God-given talent. So thank you, to our Lord and Jesus Christ for opening this door.
If you're a mama bear,
but I can read and write proficiently, and that's what I wanted for my own children.
Yeah.
So give me these bills, and we're going to go to work. We're going to go to town and do something once and for all.
Yeah.
Because on day one, we have solid plans, and we just need a chance. We need to give our children a chance.
Let me say this. You're talking about being able to read and write professionally. I used to manage banks, and one of the ladies that I did, she was an older black woman, okay? And then she had been raised by her great-grandmother, who was born in the 1800s. And so, but she always said her great-grandmother told her, being an older black woman in Texas in the 1800s, that woman knew what true oppression was, what the slavery. She wasn't a slave, but she was born close enough to that she knew people that had been. And the one thing that she beat, and so when you talk about this, and I just think it's amazing that she said proficient in reading and writing. She goes, and this lady was the lady I knew was in her 70s or late 70s, but she said my great grandmother always told me you need to be able to read and write so you know how they're controlling you.
Yes.
And that's where we are. But you've talked about this with the school, with everything else that's going on. I think that's if you're not proficient at your grade level, if you can't read, which we're seeing even when I was in high school. I graduated high school in 2004. So even then, there were kids that during football season they would make decent grades so they could play, but then their mom would make them fail enough classes on the second semester so they could get the quote unquote crazy check. This was a game that happened, and there were multiple people that I graduated. Of course, we had 400 in our class or something. That there were people that graduated that walked away if they were reading was on a third grade or less level.
Right.
And that was, like I said, 22 years ago.
And it's culturally appropriate in some cases.
Culturally appropriate in a lot of cases. And so to hear you talk about this, but one thing I wanted to get to was you keep hitting this child trafficking. And, if people are from here, they know where we are. But with Highway 59 coming up, and then it hits I-30, and then I remember talking to an FBI agent a few years ago, and they said they got word that a certain kind of car was coming through here and had a little girl, I think, with them, and they just drove back and forth down the interstate until they found them. Just happened to time it right where they were able to make this up. Child trafficking comes through this area, whether we say it does or not. I don't think it stops here. We're just kind of the bypass in between, halfway between Little Rock and Dallas. It's just, and then coming up from Houston, that's how you get to the rest of the country. It's a big deal.
Yes.
And I just don't think people put enough emphasis on how big a deal this is.
Well, it is all connected. I remember when Texas was the 8th highest state with human trafficking. And now we're number 2.
Right.
So it's not getting any better. A lot of it doesn't have to do with the bills that we pass or not.
Right.
It just has to do with our lawmakers, our government, our top of our government.
A lot of people who were making contributions to these campaigns, big contributions, are involved in it.
Yeah.
In Dallas, the biggest place for trafficking is Highland Park and Frisco.
Well,
And people are shocked.
Dallas,
It's like it's not the hood. No, people in the hood can't afford $5,000 a night.
When the Super Bowl came to the new Cowboy Stadium, I was living in Fort Worth, and I was attending classes on the at the Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, and we had a big push. Like, okay, there's going to be an influx of sex trafficking, and just all the alerts that went out around just the Super Bowl and how bad it was for everything that it brings in. Anyway, I don't want to get derailed.
Yeah, families were being advised not to let their children go to the bathroom by themselves.
That's exactly right.
We've had a lot of military families reporting individuals at Walmarts, whether they're inside the store or waiting for you in the parking lot. So on March 3rd, that's what has me so excited about the Republican primary. We have such amazing candidates. And in particular, this is something that's no one's really talking about. I would love for you to possibly look at the number of military veterans that are running against our long-term politicians.
Yeah.
On March 3rd.
Who else? You and Pete.
Doc Pete Chambers, Aaron Wrights, Wesley Hunt is a veteran. I can go on and on. And that's not the only superhero qualification that I want to point out, because we also have amazing folks running like Ken Paxton, I've had to work through his office a lot.
He's done good work.
Yes. So we have an opportunity this primary to, if we really want to secure a safe and free Texas and eradicate human trafficking, make the pedophiles afraid again.
And I'm for the death penalty for somebody convicted of pedophilia.
If a dog hurts a kid, they put the dog down.
Right.
If a pedophile hurts a kid, then
They
that's
set them free.
And almost on
do.
almost on a daily basis. I just saw Erin Anderson. She has an entire RPT resolution where we should recognize her for her work in exposing the child predators in Texas public schools.
Absolutely.
Erin Anderson from the Texas Scorecard. I believe what I saw last night was that there was 3 in one day, and possibly maybe out of the same school district.
It's just
And so
it's daily. We hear about this stuff daily.
when the Texas Education Commissioner explains to us that 2 school years ago, over 80% of the new teacher hires, remember, they're pushing out the good teachers like myself, and now the situation has gotten so grave. Not only are they getting H-1B visa, non-English speaking teachers in our classrooms, but it appears to me that they have opened the doors, the schoolhouse doors, to child predators.
because you don't know who's in there.
Or if they were a good teacher to begin with, they know that nothing's going to happen to them. So they're willing to risk their family, their career, their humanity, and exploit children.
Well, and you hear it all the time, or I do. And it's easy to say, you never want to be like one of these media organizations like, it's been reported and they're just making up something. But it's not uncommon to hear, so-and-so, this teacher went away. Why'd they go away? They got transferred out of district, or they went over. Because a district doesn't, for years, and maybe that's changing now with the hyper focus on it, or more focus. I don't know if it's hyper yet, but of that person was messing around with kids, especially in high school and stuff. It was easier just to say, hey, you can resign and go away. That way we don't have to deal with the public backlash. That was a tool. I mean, did you see that too? That was a tool that used by school districts.
Or they transfer them from one place to another, and they'll say, we took care of it. He was no longer employed here.
Right. They're not
But
resigning.
now they work 60 miles away.
Yes, they're not resigning.
Right.
We are passing the trash.
Yeah.
So rather than the Texas Education Agency, the commissioner, our governor, our lieutenant governor, demanding that we have some sort of reporting system, or let's flag those teachers, right? Let's temporarily, until the investigation is conducted, pull them out for the children's sake, and temporarily suspend their licenses. Nope. We're just nothing to see here. Such is the case with 2 families that I helped out at Fort Hood, because now the child crimes have reached the schools on military bases. They had really just tried to shut up these parents, and they put out an outcry on Facebook and on social media. It got to some of our independent journalists, and it finally got through me. The very next day, I went to Fort Hood, sat with the families. I set up a press conference, took them to the Capitol, and the base commander at Fort Hood reopened the investigation. But sadly, after several months, one of the moms contacted me and said, he's just moving over a few school districts over. So my candidacy, although I'm the underdog of all underdogs, I know that Lieutenant Patrick and his staff, the Texas Capitol is paying attention. On February 4th, I believe is on the 4th, for the first time ever in Texas history, we have an Inspector General, an IG, working out of the Texas Education Agency that is going to be investigating the teacher. And that took an effort.
Is it a good person?
I don't know the individual.
I mean, a lot of these school districts have the school police department investigate something.
Right.
And
but I do want to say there's so many organizations out there like Shepherd's Watch, Texas Education 911, Kristen Bentley, so many just amazing Texans and grassroots organizations that made that possible.
Yeah.
But is it just another cover-up?
Yeah.
Because the trash is being passed, these inappropriate educators just getting a slap on their wrist.
Right.
Because as teachers, whether you're a principal or just a staff member, you are mandated reporters.
Right.
So if you
That's
suspect
exactly right.
child abuse, you are to report that up the chain of command. And what we have found are the superintendents, the administrators, all the way up to save face,
They don't report.
they cover it. They cover it up.
And schools, by law,
that's going to stop.
There's very little that schools are vulnerable to with civil lawsuits. Our mutual friend Rachel Hale spoke to our group about that at the Bowie County Patriots. And sovereign immunity, is that what you're about to say? Yeah, that I mean, like if your kid gets hurt in a school vehicle, gets hit by a school vehicle, or if it's in an accident, you can sue the school. That's about it. If your kid is bullied unmercifully, if your kid is raped, if your kid is molested by a teacher, right? If you try to sue them, there's literally laws in effect that say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can't sue this school for doing this heinous
and that's
thing,
why we have
or allowing this heinous thing."
The resolution to terminate our ties with TASB, the Texas Association of School Boards. The director happens to be my neighbor. He was actually my boss, my superintendent, when I worked for Leander ISD.
Okay.
So when I tell you that God has just
Put you in the right block.
For such a time as this.
yes, absolutely.
Well, hey,
Took
I
the
know-
words out in my mouth. It's because the TASB indoctrinates all of our school board trustees, the folks that we elect
Right.
to represent our communities, our district, our children, are instead influenced, taught to just go with the flow. They rather them all
is
vote for
horrible.
everything instead of,
That indoctrination is what I was talking about earlier.
And protect
when
the
I
superintendent.
said, you don't have any experience being a lieutenant governor or doing the legislative stuff. And I don't think that's a problem at all, because there's been indoctrination. Well, that's how we've always done it. And sometimes it's just as banal as that. Well, that's just the way we do this. And they need somebody to come in and go, that's dumb. We're not going to do that. For the governor, for term limits.
The lieutenant governor.
We need new people in these positions that have gone out and basically stake your reputation that here's who I am, this is what I'll do. And then if you get there and that's not what you'll do.
And we'll tell you.
Yeah. But the people that are there now, they're used to that. You said you would do this. And they go, well, and they equivocate, and they know they have 1,000 supporters.
Right.
They're still going to get the lobbyist money, all that kind of stuff. We've got to get rid of those people if we're going to have any kind of progress.
That's right.
The lieutenant governor's role also is to be the deputy advisor to the Texas governor and to actually serve as governor in the governor's absence. But what we're facing right now, recently, we had the freezing temperatures. Our governor was in Davos with the World Economic Forum. So rather than us have the lieutenant governor in his place helping us make sure that our grid was indeed secure,
Right.
helping Texans prep for the weather, giving advice, just being here. Our lieutenant governor was also at the World Economic Forum.
Oh, they were both there?
And they were both there. And our lieutenant governor was wearing a different hat in a different role. And rather than he be here standing on Texas soil, standing firm and declaring Texas a Christian nation when we have all of the Islamification being exposed right now, again, he's off at Davos. I believe it was this week, he's over in D.C. wearing a different hat, but he's nonetheless introduced as the Texas lieutenant governor. And, he's standing up for, religious liberty for the United States, but
Religious
also
liberty for us or for Islam?
well, not for Islam, I don't think, but nonetheless,
There's my cynicism.
we just don't have the lieutenant governor that is boots on the ground. I
Right.
never saw him when we had the July 4th floods,
Right.
and I was in multiple counties, helping out. We just need someone that's accessible.
Yeah.
He doesn't know me from Adam. However, the same bills that I work on, and one in particular that I've worked on for 3 legislative sessions, the Military Children's Education Compact, that's kind of how I started with this. He just refuses to pass. And this 2025 legislative session, the 89th, I got a call from Capitol attorneys. This very concise bill that was authored by a Army veteran, combat veteran, Representative Lowe, was to have the state of Texas honor a compact that would extend education benefits to our youngest of heroes, our military-connected students in Texas, K through 12, to help them transfer from school districts much more smoother. It's
Right.
not to give them favors or a heads up. It's just to acknowledge them. And right now, Texas is not providing these benefits to the children of our Space Force service
Okay.
members and their families. I don't know
Space
what.
is- for those that aren't in Texas, space is a big industry around here. Like,
Yes. And we have DOD contractors. We have a lot of folks that are affiliated with our military.
right.
And Texas just refuses to honor this compact. And I feel, in my most humble but yet professional opinion, it is because if they are forced to provide equal opportunity, but most of all, a safe and quality education to military kids, that means they have to provide it to the rest of them, the
Everybody else.
5.5 million
Yeah, I think that's right.
kiddos in schools. So I got the call from the Capitol attorneys, and they wanted to remove where I put a sentence that said any personnel with a criminal arrest record having to do with domestic or sexual violence could not work in a school that serves
didn't-
military-connected
They
students.
did not want that in
They
there?
did not want that. They said, well, that's more like civil type of bill. Well, I said, fine, take it off, because I knew that we have great folks like Kristen Bentley, Rachel Hale, Jennifer Fleck, lots of grassroots organizations, child advocates, parents like myself, working on bills like HB 4623 to finally, do something about the child exploitation, having to do with the books, to help keep our children safe. So I said, fine, take it off. If
Which is a weird
let's
ask.
not stall this bill one more session.
Once again, our kids are just pawns in a sick game.
Absolutely.
That they're
Yes,
playing.
sir.
That's what it is. They're just using them as pawns for their weirdness, and
Yes.
it just, like I say, if you're
Trying to make the kids part of the weirdness.
So then
That's exactly-
the
that's
House,
exactly right.
the Texas House, I don't think that any member voted against the bill. So it
Okay.
passed with flying colors.
Awesome.
So then it came time for the bill to have a senator sponsor. Keep in mind, the lieutenant governor presides over the
right.
Senate.
He's kissing it with the ring.
Right?
Yeah.
So not even my own Republican senator would sponsor the bill.
Why? Who's your
Good
senator?
question. Donna Campbell.
Okay, just let's go ahead and say it.
So all of my
That means ours didn't
representatives
either.
are
Yeah,
Republican.
which is Brian Hughes
Yeah.
or Bob Hall.
I asked
Brian
them,
Hughes is ours.
I know,
but
but I would say Bob Hall didn't either.
Really?
but
That's
you know,
interesting.
when you're getting close to the end of the session, everybody's already assigned to their bills and they're working hard, and you have your constituents that you're answering to. So my first question, as I'm advocating to find a sponsor, is, well, who's your senator? Because it just makes more sense. And not to mention, my senator is the vice chair of the K through 16 Education Committee.
It all ties back into it, doesn't it?
So imagine my stance,
Yeah.
what I'm going through as an educator, a military veteran, a mother,
Yeah. Yeah.
someone who's versed in policy, because of my military background with standard operating procedures,
Yeah.
after actions reports, being supervisor,
Yeah.
starting processes, documents,
Right.
from scratch. And then not to mention my educational background, which includes a lot of literature reviews and a whole lot of research papers, right?
You're not
And
inexperienced.
thesis.
You're just not. You're just not. You just haven't been tied into the.
Just not brainwashed.
Yeah. That's a good
Right.
way. You're
Yes.
not inexperienced. You're just not brainwashed. So you're.
You've
But-
got plenty of experience to do this job well,
Yes.
but you just haven't been brainwashed. And
Right,
so we can
and-
expect you, as Lieutenant Governor, to
not be
browbeat the
brainwashed.
Senate
There you go.
on a regular basis.
But
and,
you-
and that's we haven't
Yeah.
talked about this in a while to Bowie County Patriots, but one of the roles we see for ourselves is we're making the wrong people do the right things. And it doesn't happen as often as we want.
Yeah.
But every once in a while we can get enough of a wave behind us and not just as a Bowie County Patriots, but grassroots in Texas. We can every once in a while we can get the water moving just right, and we can shove it
And we can
down
find
the
somebody
road.
like you that does have the courage, does have the backbone, does have the moral conviction, does have the right principles. We can say, hey, I think we like this person. Let's which is why we're here.
Well, because when I, had to man up, so to speak,
Yeah.
I'm not afraid. Yes, I've been called a racist, Christian nationalist, a pedophile, all of that. But
say
that's
pedophile?
all it is. Oh yeah, if I'm exposing this, then
yeah.
the liberals,
Because that's some sick stuff.
yeah, the liberals are. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, she's the pedophile.
Just
she
for
wants
having
to
it with
read
you.
this.
Yeah, because if somebody just came across you and you had this on you, they'd be like, why would
Right.
you ever have that on?
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
Well, Kristen was giving away every day. She was giving a new dirty book to somebody in the state legislature. And they're going, would you please quit sending this stuff? They thought she was nasty. And she goes, no, this is what's in the schools.
So we
And
definitely
she
are.
used that as a...
Yeah, the liberals'
Stepping
worst
stone.
nightmare, or someone like me.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I get onto the Spanish news stations, and
Yeah.
oh boy,
Let it roll, huh?
what can we do to dissuade her from opening her mouth?
Right.
Well, you mentioned earlier that one of the things you bring to this is your culture. I know that there's areas in South Texas that are predominantly Hispanic, and they some of them had their first Republican primary ever,
Wow.
or in memory, and people had to go in and say, okay, here's how you do a primary. And one year Republican candidates win, and nobody will admit to voting for them. No, I'm a Democrat like you. And the next year, a Republican candidate, or next term, a Republican candidate wins again. They go, yeah, I supported them. And so it's been just a very quick shift to the right in a great deal of the Hispanic community, especially in South Texas, but in other places as well. That's actually the most conservative part of Texas right now. It used to be Northeast Texas, and now it's down Galveston down to the valley. Corpus to the valley.
Yeah, we are deeply rooted in our faith, our love for God, and making sure that our children have it better than we do.
Right.
In my instance, I grew up homeless. I was born in California and spent my earlier childhood there. And my parents were dirt poor after my dad lost his job temporarily, and I remember we lived on top of like his truck camper, so not even an RV, and we would just park in the streets.
That's where I
At least
lived.
we had some shelter over us, and then
Right.
we got to move into like a converted garage for a couple of years. We used to collect like aluminum cans to have money, cardboard, go recycle. So never in my mind did I think I'd be 18 years old, be low crawling the Texas ground over at Camp Bullis and Lackland Air Force Base in service to my country, and just working really hard the rest of my life, and that my own children in the years 2020, 2025 would not be receiving the same safe haven that I found in my schools.
Right.
In the 5th grade, we moved to Louisiana, and man, what an amazing life and upbringing and education that I received there. And so we have a lieutenant governor who's supposed to be advisor to our governor, and I just don't see them being the individuals that stand up for the everyday Texan. I'm tired of what I see, and it's taking children, for example, and making them political pawns, and then pandering to the Democrats.
Yeah.
So that they can keep their seats.
And that's
I'm
the
just
problem.
sick of it. I'm just sick of it.
Not the three of us in here, but the Republican Party as a whole, and especially the rhinos, are just so used to leading from the back. They're so used to losing. They don't know how to lead. They don't know how to have courage. They don't know what it means to be out front. And that's what the people of Texas crave. That's what, on a county-wide deal, on a city-wide deal, if someone would stand up like you and say, hey, this is what we're going to do, people will follow. People will give up. They just have to hear it. They have to know there's somebody out there that will do it.
You know, we have amazing folks like I mentioned earlier, David Lowe, Brian Harrison.
Yeah.
They are not afraid to stand up to the James Tallaricos. You know, speaking of the Democrats, I have worked really hard for our children, not just in Leander ISD, but Round Rock ISD, Austin ISD, who is now celebrating, I think, their 12th year of Pride in the schools. So don't let me get into all of that. But James Tallarico, running against Cornyn, U.S. Senate, he was over Leander ISD. He was one of the state representatives. So he has from me the pedophilia, like worse pictures than this, okay? It gets worse. It gets worse.
I'm sure it does.
So he has it. When he sat on the education committee, the House Education Committee, he will go and just grill grandmothers that are there speaking up against the pornography or DEI and CRT, and he'll just tell them, you know, well, did you bring me proof? Did you bring me a list of schools that you supposedly say are engaging with CRT or inappropriate books? But then when it comes to my turn, he'll just make an excuse and you know, not be present.
It's
so
just
the
evil.
liberals,
It's just evil.
I'm their worst nightmare. They are afraid of me.
like it.
There is Vicki Goodwin, who's probably the lead contender. She's running for lieutenant governor.
Okay.
She was also over LISD.
Okay.
So I know these individuals really well.
And she's running as a Democrat.
She is the Democrat running for lieutenant governor.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So James Tallarico, over Leander ISD. I'm using these examples because they're literally from where I'm from.
You know them.
The greater Austin area.
And they're in this fight.
And I don't know them where I won't sit and have a conversation with them. Like, I don't know them like that.
But you know of
I
them.
know them. I demand that you protect children.
Yeah,
Type of knowing. And then we have Gina Hinojosa. She's over Austin ISD. But, she's going to give Governor Abbott a run for his money because I know a lot of conservative moms that had to team up with her.
Right.
Having to do with the school choice debacle and all of that, which I stayed out of. And so, yeah, we need to get out the vote. You were talking about the Hispanic vote. I have had the opportunity to work with the RPT, in getting out and outreaching to the Hispanic voters. Right. I get along with everybody unless... Or like I like to put it, you're either on the side of children or you're not, right?
Yeah.
We can have the
easy.
Reader Act.
That one's easy.
We can have the Reader Act, and that's wonderful that representative, brought it forth. However, if these bills continue to be written with so many loopholes,
Right.
it does us no good.
It's amazing how many people are against children.
Yes,
And
yes.
hey, we're kind of getting towards the end, so we'll kind of wrap it up. But I did want to say, according to Grog, there are approximately 50 military veterans running in this primary in Texas.
How many?
50.
Wow.
And so
As Republicans?
I didn't ask that. I just said in general.
So 1.4 million. I thought it was.
So
Yeah,
there's
1.4 million veterans.
Texas veterans.
Texas veterans.
That's not including our
Yeah.
families.
Now some of those are liberals. A
Yes.
surprising number, actually.
Oh, well, let me tell y'all really quick.
But if you get most of the veterans to support you,
And Doc P. Chambers, yes.
yeah, then
yes.
that's the
Texas has a winning chance
4
of
years
turning this
ago.
around.
There was 1.8 million people voted in the entire Republican primary for governor. And so if you can get just 1 million of the veterans to support you, to support Pete, to support others that are running, then
Got a real shot at this.
yeah, we do, and
That's why I thank y'all for having me on.
Oh,
you know.
thank you for your time.
it's his show.
It just takes a
I
word
just
of
sit in the corner.
mouth and a leap of faith. But yes, we're very, very close. I also happen to have filed on the very last day.
Okay.
So I think that there was just no time for them to throw in, 5 other 6 planted candidates.
Right, 'cause
So
that's what they would've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
and that's
they-
what we have
yeah.
going on with the governor's race, where
Absolutely.
there's
Well, 8 of them.
10 and then the governor. So it's 11 of them. Yeah.
Tell everybody where can they find information, learn more about you.
Yes, well, I am Perla Hopkins, and I am running to be your next Texas Lieutenant Governor. I am America First, Texas First. I bleed red, white, and blue, and I'm fighting for our children. And so I think that if people would love to know more about me, the website, I don't run it, and so it's not as clear, but I have my published personal statement, my original press release out there as a live link, a Google document. And if you just Google my name, you can put things like Perla Hopkins.
Spell Perla for everybody.
Perla,
Okay.
last name Hopkins.
There we go.
I have a list of media features. I've been on Newsmax, Epic Times,
Awesome.
the Spanish stations, just so many publications, wearing many hats. But above all, it is for standing up for our hardworking families, our faith, our God, and our country. We are at a pivotal time in Texas history where we either fight for our constitutional republic or we tend to lose it. We have to make sure that
We've
our
been
state's law
losing
and
it.
order
Right.
is. Yeah.
And I, I do this every once in a while. The only way, I forget who said this, the only way for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. And it is never hopeless.
No, it's not
because
hopeless.
you could find the biggest auditorium in the Leander area, and you could completely black it out. You and I could stand on opposite ends of it, and I could light a match, and you'd see it. I could stand against the wall and face away from you, and you'd see the light from the match. Light, it has supremacy. Darkness only works in darkness.
Amen.
What we're doing is good versus evil.
That's
And so
exactly
when
right.
people like you get out there,
exactly
that light gets shown, light gets spread, and then timid people, they're willing to focus on what you're doing for a little while. There's so few people that are making anything happen. And on the side of darkness, that's what they want. They want everybody to turn away, to look away, like the Epstein files. If they can put that out there and nothing happens, or nobody says prosecute them, things like that's the same as giving him permission.
Right.
And so when people like us stand up and say that's wrong, that's stupid, that's dangerous, when we do that, it puts a little bit of starch in other people, but just that little bitty tiny spark that each of us has and shares makes a huge difference, because this is a spiritual battle. It is good versus evil.
And let's close like this, Perla. Thank you for coming. Let me say a prayer for you. Is that okay?
Amen.
Lord, thank you for Perla. We ask for supernatural protection around her and her husband and her kids and what they're doing. We know she has put a target on her back, both literally and in every other way, God. And so just protect her words. Let her speak for you, God. Give her the words, give her the tongue, give her the thoughts to carry your message, and let that results be whatever you deem them that necessary that they be. Let her sway this election. Let her win this election. Let whatever you want, God. We're going to ask that you lay your hand on her. You open every door, God, that is of you, and you close every door in her life that is not of you. God, give her the vision of where you're going to put her, and then let her. We're going to thank you in advance for whatever miracles come from this, the ones we may be expecting, the ones we may not be. And we thank you for that, God. And we love you and we praise you in the name of Jesus. Amen. All right, everybody, we're getting out of here. I hope God blesses each and every one of you today.